World Bank team on assessment visit to Nigeria expresses satisfaction with the implementation of its intervention projects. Nigerian Investment Promotion Council says the country's recorded 32 projects in 8 states worth over $17.8 billion investment inflows. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria blames commercial banks for sabotaging its efforts at replacing mutilated notes with new ones. Plus, Nigerian stock market continues downward slide as profit-taking subsides. Just as Nigeria hands over to Kenya the leadership of the Africa and Middle East Regional Committee of IASCO. Details of these and more on this edition of Business Express. I am Amina Nujaim. Thank you for joining us. On the news today, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says the country is on course to effectively tackle poverty and unemployment through its microeconomic planning and social investment programs. Professor Yemi Osinbajo said this when a delegation of senior officials from the World Bank, led by the World Bank Group Executive Director for Italy, Mr. Patrizio Pagano, visited him at the presidential villa in Abuja. In terms of systematic policy, he said government must keep innovating, looking for what works. Professor Osinbajo, who said that the Buhari administration's social investment programs were targeted at taking millions of Nigerians out of poverty, also said government have programs in place that promotes accountability. The group of 10 executive directors on a working visit to Nigeria represents 93 countries from across Africa, Asia, Central America and Europe. The World Bank says it's pleased to see that its intervention projects in Nigeria are yielding results. The executive director spokesperson for the 10-man delegation from the World Bank, Dr. Patrizio Pagano, at a meeting with the Minister of Finance in Abuja, promised a better cooperation with the federal government for socio-economic development of the country. Leah Katumba Batunde has details.
The 10-man delegation is in Nigeria to discuss the status of ongoing World Bank projects and the country's development priorities. The World Bank has an agenda of ending extreme poverty and promoting shared prosperity by the year 2030. This visit is intended to, among other things, provide a first-hand information on the challenges that both the federal and state governments face in implementing development projects, as well as ensuring good governance. At the Ministry of Finance, the team was impressed over Nigeria's current growth record and canvassed for more inclusiveness.
The World Bank works to eradicate poverty and to make growth as inclusive as possible by boosting the income of the bottom 40%.
The Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, on her part, assured members of the delegation of the federal government's vision of ensuring all-inclusive growth and raise more revenue for development.
Now we're back to growth. It's two things. It's one is to accelerate that growth, and then two is to make that growth count and make people feel it. And that's where the sort of lifting people out of poverty, employment generation.
The minister revealed that the country's taxpayers' base had risen from 14 million in 2016 to 19 million in 2018, grossing additional 5 million taxpayers into the system. The visit is a step to further enhance the goal of the Bretton Woods Institution for member countries and the effectiveness of the executive directors in providing the necessary support.
Now we move to the Ministry of Finance. Nigeria's Finance Minister Kemi Adeosun says government is working hard to maintain debt service cost. Speaking at the quarterly briefing of the state economy, the minister disclosed government's willingness to continue to focus on tax collection to meet developmental needs. Again, Leah Katungmabatunde has this report.
Nigeria's economic space has had to undergo reforms to curb leakages, wastages and theft since the inception of this administration. This is with a view to, among other things, mitigate the effect of sliding incomes. Finance Minister Kemi Adeosun says the nation's accounts books are feeling the impact of the VAT's extension, which has so far dragged more than 5 million additional taxpayers into the net. The whistleblower policy, she said, is responsible for the current trend in revenue mobilization. This month, 439 million naira is being paid to about 14 persons for tax evasion tips, with 13.8 billion naira recovered.
The whistleblowers in the past have been about stolen money. With the extension of the voluntary asset and income declaration scheme, of course, and our general narrative about tax, we're getting far more tips from on tax evasion, which of course is a crime against us all.
The Debt Management Office puts Nigeria's external and domestic debt at about $18.9 billion and 15.9 trillion naira as at March 2018. The minister assured the burden is not too much as government's borrowings are tied to massive infrastructure provision.
And those are, roads and rail that will be here for the next 30 years. So you're matching long-term assets and long-term liabilities. And the construct is that the economy will grow, will improve our tax collection and be able to service and repay the debt.
She, however, added that there is a need to realign priorities with the 2018 budget yet to be passed. In Abuja, I'm Leah Katungmabatunde.
The Nigerian Investment Promotion Council NIPC says it has recorded 32 projects in 8 states worth over $17.8 billion investment inflows into the first quarter of 2018. This was against projects in 4 states that received $6.38 billion in the first quarter of last year, as contained in its investment report for 2018. Executive Secretary NIPC Yewande Sakidu said the major source came from the United Kingdom with $59 million, followed by Nigeria with $212 million, United States $2.3 million, while China had $1.2 million. Others are Switzerland with $847 million, while $262 million came from other sources, while pointing out that oil and gas, transport, construction, information and communication technology, manufacturing and solar plants were mostly favored sectors. Sadiku noted that Lagos, Kano, Niger and Ogun states were identified as preferred investment destination. The Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, has blamed commercial banks in the country for sabotaging its efforts at replacing mutilated notes with new ones. Acting Director Communications Department of CBN, Mr. Isaac Okorafor, made the allegation while reacting to lamentations of Nigerians of dirty and mutilated notes in the country. He said the Apex Bank was aware of developments and had taken several measures to address it. One of the steps taken by CBN is mopping up the mutilated notes from the system was reduction in the amount it charges banks for sorting dirty notes for clean ones from 12,000 to 1,000 per box. Okorafor said the reduction in charges for the commercial banks, which lasted for 3 months from January 2nd to March 28, was to encourage them to return more dirty notes to CBN. The Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, NETI, said the amount disbursed by the Federation Account Allocation Committee, FAC, in the first quarter of 2018 rose to its highest since 2015, indicating a rebound of government revenue after the great oil bust of 2014. Bosede Abel has this report.
The quarterly review of the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative on FAC for the first quarter of 2018 revealed that a sum of 1.9 trillion naira was disbursed by FAC to the federal 36 states and 774 local governments of the federation in the quarter. The amount, which represents 37.3% increase from 1.4 trillion naira shared in 2017 and 71.1% rise from 1.1 trillion naira shared in 2016, all in the same period. According to the review, the total disbursement of FAC to the three tiers of government for the first quarter of 2018 were 25.6% lower than 2.6 trillion naira shared in the same period in 2013 before the oil prices crash. The global crude oil prices, which accounted for over 90% of government revenue, had in 2014 dropped by about 70% from $115 per barrel for Brent's benchmark to about $35 per barrel, has greatly affected Nigeria's revenue base. But the oil prices rose to $77 per barrel this week due to Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries (OPEC) crude oil supply cuts and the recent withdrawal of the United States from the Iran nuclear deal, with the imposition of sanctions on Iran created a better outlook for Nigeria's revenue.
Business Express will take a short break and be right back. In other business developments, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, says it's ever ready to support the Petroleum Tanker Drivers PTD and the Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers NOPENG in whatever way to enhance the distribution of petroleum products across the country. NNPC Group Managing Director Mekan Tibaru said this in line with the corporation's commitment to make life easier for petroleum tanker driver members that it intervened in the rehabilitation of the Diko Junction in Suleja Depot in Niger State last year. He said NNPC had also been supportive to the petroleum tanker drivers in its quest to acquire land to build trailer parks across the country, adding that the corporation would continue to assist the union in any other way to make life easier for them to perform their duty of taking petroleum products across the country. Africa Development Bank AFDB and Africa Export-Import Bank has agreed to raise capital base of about $20 billion for the actualization of federal government's plan to establish aircraft leasing company and maintenance, repair and overhaul facility. This is in line with the two financial institutions' objective to support aviation development in Africa in order to expand and improve intercity connectivity in the region and give teeth to single African air transport market, a treaty signed by the Africa Union to promote air connectivity in the continent. Stocks have continued to bleed in the Nigerian Stock Exchange, with heavy caps taking the hits. Details with Muplang Dakok.
Trading on the Nigerian Stock Exchange recorded further losses Thursday to extend three-day negative stance. The all-share index and market capitalization depreciated by 0.40% to close at 40,915.17 basis points and 14.820 trillion naira. Investors exchanged 244.9 million shares valued at 4.096 billion naira in 3,804 deals. Cement Company of Northern Nigeria CCNN led 22 gainers for the day. The losers table, made up of 26 losers, was led by Nigerians. Top trades measured by volume were led by the financial services industry, led by Zenith, Access and UBA.
Thank you, Muplang. While the stock market has closed, it has made a rebound on Friday with its first gain this week. The all-share index added 0.26% to end the day at 41,222.31 points, and market capitalization stood at 14.859 trillion naira. Volume of trade was 214 million, valued at 4.234 billion naira in 3,675 deals. Now take a look at global markets. Europe shares head for longest winning streak in 3 years. Musa Abubakar has an outlook.
JSE Africa Top 40 appreciated 213.71 points to close Thursday's session at 51,493.07. Nairobi SE20 gained 0.18%. Namibia overall added 0.19%. Tune Index gained 1.32%, while Ghana GSE declined 0.49%. In U.S., Dow Jones Industrial Average rose sharply on Thursday, posting 6 straight days of gains, appreciating 0.80% to close 24,739.53. S&P 500 gained 0.9% at 2,723.07, while Nasdaq Composite gained 0.89%. Asian market closed with moderate gains on Thursday as oil prices traded higher. Japan's Nikkei gained 0.39%, Shanghai Composite appreciated 0.51%, and Hang Seng Index climbed 0.89%. Europe equities closed higher on Thursday. The FTSE gained 38.45% points, while DAX and CAC climbed 0.62 and 0.21%.
Many thanks, Musa. Next in our lineup is a graphic representation of commodities as compiled by Bosede Ibel. And a quick trip into the international currency markets. Let's see how they are trading. And this is where we wrap up Friday's edition of Business Express. The program returns on Monday. I am Amina Nujaim. Thank you for joining us.